Hello everyone, welcome to Wrestling Royalty, and of course give me a whole year as well if you join us at either of those channels. Happy Friday, and I hope you're having a lovely day or a lovely evening, no matter where you are in the world. But thank you for joining us. We are tonight going to be talking about NXT Vengeance Day, which comes for live in about 40 hours. So it's on Sunday, which is a bit strange for WWE. They've been doing a lot of things on Saturdays recently. So we are going on a Sunday today, but we are going to be previewing the NXT Vengeance Day card, up and down the card. We'll be talking all things NXT tonight. So I hope you are settled in. I hope you can join us. And we're going to be having a chat about all the different things going on in NXT. Shawn Michaels, who did a great job yesterday, talking about all the hard stuff that is going on right now in the professional wrestling world, especially with WWE. We're not going to talk about that side of things too much, but we are going to be talking about the fantastic lineup that we have ready to go on Sunday night for Vengeance. We've got stories all over the place. So before we get into it all, let's start with a big flashy intro. And yeah, we are going to be joined by a representative from Give Me a Whole Year. They're going to be on very shortly. I think maybe I've sent the wrong code to people to get in, but I did send a link earlier on. So I'm going to try and do that while I'm also talking to you fine people. Let me know what you're up to this Friday. What's going on? Are you having a great time? What have I done here? Seems right. So I implore, if they're watching, if anyone's watching that's supposed to be joining, go check the message in the whole year chat over on WhatsApp. I think that should be right. But in the meantime, as I said, we're going to be talking about NXT Vengeance Day. Let's throw this up. We've got a stacked card. It's an interesting one, a week on from the Royal Rumble. I'd also love to hear your comments if you want to let us know what you thought of the Royal Rumble, because there are a lot of noise coming out of that. There's a lot of things going on SmackDown tonight, which you'll be able to join the man I'm going to bring in here, Mr. Sam Smith, who eventually did remember that I sent him. And the one time I've sent him it, not just like 2 minutes before, I sent him it hours ago. He eventually decides to join. That's why I'd like to just send it last minute so you don't forget. But you're here now. That's all that matters. How are you doing?
I've had a very busy day, so I totally forgot. I'm not going to lie. Anything before the gym, I don't remember. So
you'll stop you. Your audio is terrible.
Oh,
you're grainy. You're quiet.
Oh, how about now?
You're very quiet, but some of the graininess is gone.
How bizarre.
I'll let Sam try and figure out what might be going on there. I think maybe there's a problem with his microphone or his headphones that he's got plugged in or something. It's maybe causing a little bit of something going on. Maybe it's just me. Maybe there's... Oh, are you on? You're muted.
What about now?
Loud and clear. There we go. We've got Sam is with us now. Yeah.
Screw these then.
Yeah, so we've got Sam, who's going to be joining me tonight to talk about this Vengeance Day card that we've got on Sunday night, and it's an interesting one. There's some people pulling double duty, or one person in particular who seems very hot with the WWE Universe, and we'll get into everything about Trick Williams and whether he's going to whoop that trick this Sunday, or whoop those tricks, I guess, because he's got a few different people he's got to go against. But yeah, we've got we're going to dive straight in, mate. We'll crack on. I think what we might be doing is opening with the final of the Dusty Cup, the tag team cup that we've been going into, where we have an interesting pairing here. So it's two teams made of individuals that are probably made a bit of a name for themselves, Bron Breakker and Baron Corbin, the unlikely duo who have kind of been put together, and they're facing off against Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams, who obviously have that past together. Trick Williams has kind of been in Carmelo's corner in the past, but he's now come out of his shadow, and he's now potentially the hottest property on NXT, the most popular, and we saw that even on SmackDown last week, where he got an incredible reception for a run-in. But I think this will be the one that opens on Sunday night. with him pulling double duty. Sam, are you excited for this? Is this a story that we've kind of seen before? Is it a new twist, or is this something that you have never seen before and you're just very excited to see how it plays out?
Yeah, something's got to go down here, doesn't it? Let's be honest. I mean, this is going to end in tears. I don't know if the heels are going to stay together because I don't know if they need to. But they've been teasing for a while now. Like, go back to last year's WrestleMania, and around that time when Melo became champ, they were teasing for ages that Trick's going to turn on him. Yeah, and they never did that. But now they're doing the opposite. They're kind of teasing that Melo is going to be the guy who turns. So I can't help thinking it's either too obvious or it just has to happen. So we'll see, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of how they kick off this night, there's a possibility, I guess, that Trick Williams becomes the Dusty Cup winner and he becomes the NXT champion. He could have an amazing night, or he could win absolutely bottle and become basically like, and they kick off what everyone's presumed is going to happen, which is Carmelo versus Trick leading into Stand and Deliver. But again, is there a twist in the tail? Because Carmelo Hayes has already started branching over on SmackDown. Do they need to do that? Do we need to have that blow off? Is it something that's been teased enough to do it? Or just let them kind of fall apart after having a bad loss, and maybe that's just how they break apart for a little while? What are your thoughts on that? Do they have to win this, or does Bron and Baron have to win it?
Yeah, it's in terms of who wins, like Bron, they reckon is it's been reported as being called up to the main roster, as there is a very large, man-shaped hole in the main roster now, as far as main attractions go. We all know why, but and Bron Breakker is the perfect kind of guy to fill that spot. So that would suggest that the heels aren't winning this, or if they do, they won't be sticking around for much longer. But the story for me and the match for Stand and Deliver is Trick versus Carmelo Hayes. I think that's like the only match for me right now, which is like WrestleMania worthy, Stand and Deliver worthy in the men's division, as far as like headlining it goes. So we're saying that there is the champ as well. So one of them, I think, is taking this off Dragunov, or if not, somebody else is going to face Dragunov, and these two can face each other. But we'll see. I'm just trying to make sure to see where all the pieces might land. You see what I mean on the chessboard?
Yeah, because I guess there's a few different kind of endings for this premium live event. Do you have Carmelo and Trick have that happy moment where they win it and everything seems rosy in the garden and they're the ones who are going to have the tag team title shot, and then Trick goes on and wins and then they have the title? Or do we see them win in the beginning and he loses later on? Does he lose both and it's a really bad night for him? Or does he win both and maybe at the end Carmelo does a sort of Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn thing where he just turns on him after his big crowning moment? So there's lots of permutation, lots of potential outcomes. So let us know in the comments, what do you want to see happen? Is there a kind of combination of different things that you'd like to see? We'll get into the Dragunov versus Williams match at the end, because there's kind of like a lot to unpack. But also, quite frankly, this picture is hilarious because what's going on with Bron's face? It's unbelievable. While we're talking about Bron Breakker, had a fantastic showing in the Royal Rumble. We spoke about it over on WrestleSphere on our sort of Rumble review. What do you think the future holds for Bron? Do you think that Rumble appearance helped his star kind of get pushed on the main roster?
Yeah, I think a lot. I'm just going to turn off this heater because I'm getting very red. There we are. Yeah, I think it got a lot of eyes on him. A lot of people have noticed him now. People who watch NXT regularly already knew this guy was destined for big things, but this was the moment where everybody was like, "Oh wow, look at this guy!" And look, he had all Brock Lesnar's spots, so we know that. That's why the McAfee thing didn't quite come off in the Rumble like it should have done. But yeah, this guy's main roster ready now. They should just have him come in, be a killer, not talk much, and maybe even give him a mouthpiece. Like, he can talk on the mic just fine, but people like him are more intimidating when they have someone talk for them, I think.
And you can see on his t-shirt there, he says, best spear in the business. That's a bold statement because we've seen a lot of them even now. You've got the likes of Adam Copeland, you've got Roman Reigns, you've had Goldberg, and countless others who have used a spear. Where do you rate his spear in terms of best ever or currently?
Right now, it's really hard to argue with the statement on his t-shirts. I think for me, Attitude Era, Monday Night Wars era, Goldberg had the best spear, but that's probably because of how I remember it as a kid, being amazed by watching him just, spear jackhammer dead week after week. So, but I think right now there's nobody who does it better than him. Like Roman Reigns, I've always kind of thought his spear's a little bit iffy. He's done some really, really good ones in the past, but I think Braun's is just faster and more vicious. Yeah. And they were saying his speed was like this. Apparently, the speed he clocked in on the ropes in the Rumble was incredibly fast. So anybody on the receiving end of that spear, my God, that would have hurt. Well, if it hadn't been gimmicked, done safely. But yeah, I think he wins. I think his is the best in the business right now. I've never thought like Edge does a good one. Lashley does a good one. Who else? Who's a spear guy? I think they're the big ones, aren't they?
I swear we're going to miss someone who is.
Yeah, I feel like there's somebody else. Ricky Starks does a pretty good one for a smaller guy.
Yeah,
but his is very different. He kind of lays his in like a smaller guy would. It's more of a way to catch you in midair than other people's. But yeah, Braun is the best one in the business right now. It's very hard to argue with that.
Yeah, and there is one more person who's involved in this match who has kind of found a new home on NXT in recent months, is Baron Corbin. Do you think this is it for Baron Corbin? Is this his kind of like level, his station, or does he find himself back on the main roster at any point?
I think he should come back to the main roster because, in my opinion, they've always kind of done Corbin wrong. I always come back to a single moment with Baron Corbin, and it's the moment in I think it was the 2017 Royal Rumble. It could be 2016, I think it's 17, where he eliminates, what's he called? He eliminates Braun Strowman. And the announcers go, what does it take to eliminate the monster among men? And one of them goes, I think it takes a lone wolf. And like in that moment, he just looked like a killer, and they were booking him like he was a killer as well. Like he had to lose the hair, but the gimmick of him just being this cantankerous, vicious guy was actually great. I really, really like that. Now, they've done a lot of other gimmicks with him since then. They've made him a comedy character, which I actually was never into, the King Corbin or the Bum Corbin. It was never for me. I didn't mind the Constable Corbin when he was kind of leading his own stable and was like the top bad guy on Raw for a while, like up against the Shield. That was kind of cool, but they overused him and they played it to death. So I'd kind of like him to come back as this killer Corbin, as this violent guy, and do it that way, lose the comedy. Because I actually think I know a lot of people enjoyed it, but for me, that's where he went wrong, and that's why he had to go back to NXT. And in NXT, he hasn't been a comedy guy. He's been a much more confident sort of character, less savage, but still a killer. And I think if they bring him back to the main roster with his current persona, we might have found the sweet spot with him.
Yeah, I think the current guys, because even when he started back in NXT and he came back originally, I still wasn't fully bought into his whole I like Wagyu beef and steaks, and I smoke great cigars. I've got like an amazing house and cars. It just felt a bit hollow when he started doing it. Like it was like, oh, I'm going to do the generic heel, like I'm better than you sort of thing. Whereas like maybe if they'd steered into the I'm better than NXT, I'll just come here because I want to pick up a few easy wins, might have been a better way to go and start with. But I do feel like he's kind of found his stride now. Like in this relationship with Bron Breakker, it's more of a kind of like, I appreciate how talented you are, and I want to be like part of that journey. But where you need me as much as I need you sort of thing. And he's having a bit of fun with it. And I think that's worked quite well. Where he goes after this, because as you said, like it sounds like Bron's imminently about to go up, and so he should, because he's kicked his heels for a bit of a time in NXT, Bron Breakker, and I think it's time that he tested himself elsewhere. Same with Carmelo, but his story might go on a little bit longer. But yeah, interesting one to keep an eye on, because I genuinely think it could go either way.
Just on that note, a lot of people felt Bron Breakker was ready for a call-up at WrestleMania last year. Not going to lie, I honestly thought they might kind of fill his space, Bray Wyatt's space on the card, because obviously Bray got ill just before Mania. They were talking about having Bron come out then, and I was kind of rooting for it. You know what I mean? So Lashley had something to do, and it would have been pretty fun. But no, so I actually think Bron's been ready for a while. I'm not even entirely sure he needed the heel turn, but it's nice to see another side of him, I suppose, and to let him flex a different kind of muscle. But yeah, he's more than ready. But I think Melo needs some more time and to work out whether this thing is with Trig first, because it's good stuff.
It's an interesting one, because I think he needed that time to kind of concentrate on trying a different side of his character, because it could have been very easy to level at him that he was too one-dimensional, that he was a bit of a Steiner like knockoff, like a bit, like Steiner light sort of thing that they've done before, and he's just going to go through people like Goldberg used to. And I think giving him that heel turn for at least a little while before they started blurring it back again was smart, because you got to see, you just got to test it out, and that's what NXT should be for, is testing things out before you get to Raw or SmackDown, where literally millions of people are going to be watching you each week. So I'm not against it. It's the right place to do it, rather than go, oh, let's throw him on Raw and then realize we want him as a heel, and he's never had any kind of like heel time to kind of bed that in, and whereas now he has. So yeah, let's see where it goes. Let's see where each of these lands, because there's an argument to say all four of them could come to the main roster or back to the main roster. Certainly we are seeing Melo more and more on SmackDown, so it'll be interesting to see in the next couple of weeks where we go. I am going to have to refer to a couple of names here, because I know the family with Tony, DAngelo, Channing Stacks Lorenzo, and then we've got Adriana Rizzo, who is part of the family, who's been introduced over the last few weeks as a sort of like manager. They are going against OTM, which is Lucien Price, Bronco Nima, and they're teaming up with Jaida Parker, and they'll obviously have scripts, the infamous scripts in their corner, and a mixed tag team match, a 6-person mixed tag team match. I'm not going to lie, I don't really know why this is on the card, because I think it lets it down a little bit. I think this is a kind of matchup that they could have had on NXT's like weekly shows. What's your opinion here? Should we have had a tag team match instead?
Yeah, I think we should have. That would have made it a little bit. No disrespect to the two female performers, but I don't know or care who they are at this point. WWE's given me no reason to really care. I see one person playing one very stereotypical character, and I see another person essentially playing Adriana from The Sopranos, which is fitting, because Tony D'Angelo is essentially playing a young Tony Soprano. He's even he's directly quoted him on a few occasions as well, so it's very on the nose. But yeah, I don't mind the family as a tag team. I don't think they can keep doing the baby faces and keep doing the wear mobsters thing, though. I don't know if that quite works. And if you are a mobster, why are you working in developmental for a wrestling company? It doesn't really work for me. But the other two, again, I don't know their names, because I know they're relatively new to the business, or at least WWE. They've been pretty cool so far. Again, why would you be playing Dyson and Ali if you've been signed by the Performance Center? Sometimes when NXT does these things,
old habits die hard, man.
I don't know. Can't they just be wrestlers being wrestlers and this be their past? When they lean into these gimmicks a little bit too hard, it becomes a little bit cartoonish for me, and it's not really my cup of tea. But I think they'll put on a good match. I don't think we need the whole The Wire versus the Sopranos, which is kind of what they're doing with the other two.
Yeah, I will just read their names out again because some people might be completely new to them. And it is Lucien Price and Bronco Nima, who are part of OTM. And they've had this kind of back and forward where OTM got that shot because they somehow bet Chase U that if they lost, or there's a whole thing with Chase U were involved for a little bit, which I know Sam will be ecstatic about.
Well, I don't know that because I fast forward all the Chase U segments, so I wouldn't know that. Right.
Well, I think the idea is that Andre Chase owed money to the family, and then he kind of gambled the university and lost the university, but then somehow went even further into debt because he said, I'll take out OTM, but he didn't do it, and then OTM got a tag team title shot. It's all a little bit over the place. It was bizarre to kind of shoehorn it in, but yeah, I mean, I have seen some amazing mock-ups of Okada in a Chase U sweater, which would be amazing.
Yeah, WWE. Learn from TNA's mistake many years ago. Learn from that. Like, him and TNA are mates again now, and everything's great there, but do not disrespect the Rainmaker like that.
But yeah, we'll have I don't see any other way. Surely the family's winning here because I feel like they're cooled off a little bit too much here in terms of being tag team champions. They need a reinforcement, and also I think Adriana needs a win as a sort of debut into this teaming with the family. Otherwise, I don't see OTM as a genuine threat to the tag team titles. I also think it's interesting that the main roster's tag team division seems to be thriving, and NXT seems to have dropped off a bit too much. So,
what's her name? Sorry, the girl portraying the Italian American gimmick. She may be Italian.
One in the family.
Yeah.
So she's Adriana Rizzo.
So her name is actually Adriana.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So she's not just cosplaying as Adriana from The Sopranos. They've actually called her Adriana.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Well, it didn't end well. Spoiler alert for Soprano. If you never watched The Sopranos, Adriana was a rat and was executed in the woods. So let's hope that doesn't happen to her.
Yeah, and also I've got to say, by the way, there's so little been done in the last few weeks. I had to go back to I think it was December to get this picture for this. They just haven't really heated this up too much. It's been like sort of backstage skits and stuff, but yeah, nothing too much in the ring. They had Adriana in the Battle Royal for the women's and stuff, but yeah. We're moving on to Joe Gacy versus Dijak in a no DQ match. Now, this has kind of had a bit of time to go, and Joe Gacy's been all around. What are your thoughts on after the whole stuff with Schism? Joe Gacy's almost, I guess, mentally fallen apart, and he's been doing little bits and pieces here and there. What have you thought of Joe Gacy's now, I guess, potential renaissance?
Is it? I kind of feel like this has come out of nowhere. I don't actually understand the genesis of why these two are beefing with each other. I know I saw Gacy in the crowd at one point, and he did something that annoyed Dijak, and then a week later he was running out and attacking him. I don't know. Maybe you've seen more than me.
He did the commentary spot, didn't he? Where he was basically being like an old school commentator, and he had a whole like blazer and stuff, and I think the idea is that he's kind of lost his mind and his way after Schism, and then he got involved, like he got pushed over by Dijak and kind of took exception to that, and then they had a bit of a brawl last week in particular where it all seemed to go, and he got put through the that little bit next to commentary where everyone seems to end up getting speared, pushed through it.
The spear spot.
Yeah, you might as well just put a crash pad there, like permanently, and just say, like, fill your boots. But it seems to be that and the NXT parking lot are the worst places you can put yourself when you're in the performance center.
Did you see? Speaking of the spear spot, did you see what happened at the Royal Rumble? I think Roman Reigns speared somebody out of their pants through that particular spot, and like Samantha Irvin's like centimeters away from where it happened, and I was like, bloody hell! But I think it was that match.
Yeah. Like, she has to turn. She has to turn her legs because if she didn't, we've got like a broken.
She was in the splash zone, big time. I was like, careful, like she's the most over person on the roster right now, so you don't want to take her out.
But what are we making of this? Because
sorry,
Schism got a bit too out there, and people weren't really enjoying it, even though they had like grizzled young veterans were in there. So they had a very capable tag team around, and then they rebranded them and did all this kind of like weird stuff. Like, and now Ava's the GM, and now we've got Joe Gacy back in. So like the different things have happened. And then they're throwing in Dijak, who can't seem to buy a win on the big stage, but has a kind of cool enforcement, I don't know how you want to call it, character. What are we expecting here?
Right. So the Joe Gacy thing, I've always thought Joe Gacy it's been a bit of a troubled gimmick because, one, we've already seen the cult leader stuff before. Doesn't mean we can't do it again in a different way. That's absolutely fine. But obviously with the passing of Bray Wyatt and things like that, that might have thrown somewhat of a spanner in the works. But I do like the idea of Joe Gacy one day being the heir apparent to Bray Wyatt. I can see that. I really can. And I think Bray would probably approve of that as well. But I feel like they were calling the one tag team were the Dyad, who were the grizzled young veterans who were within Schism, and they were Druids at one point, and then they weren't Druids because they were hiding their identity. Ava Raine, who we all know is the Rock's daughter, was a creepy member of the cult as well, and now is the GM. It's all got very, very weird now. But with this match in particular, I get they're trying to repackage Ava and Joe Gacy to move away from the Schism, and that makes sense to me. They really, really miscast is the wrong word, but misbooked grizzled young veterans with that gimmick. That is not who those two guys are. It just, as a guy's been watching them on the indies and everywhere else and Progress for years, that wasn't for them. And there's a reason they got out of Dodge at the first opportunity. But yeah, back to these guys. So I'm fine with Joe Gacy being the crazy, demented guy, but is he a babyface or a heel? Are we meant to be having pity with him as a babyface right now?
I think he's supposed to be in this. He's the face. I wouldn't go so far as to say the baby face, but I think he's supposed to find him like
beautiful.
Yeah, he's entertaining enough that you would want to root for him. Maybe is the route that they're going for, but I don't know, because Dijak's kind of entertaining in his own way, so it's really difficult to then go, oh well, he must be the heel, but he's just more of like a big guy who likes to hurt people. When you're like,
I'm not feeling the Dijak character because his gimmick is he's someone who inflicts justice on people with violence. Okay, cool. You're like the Punisher. You're an anti-hero. You're deep down a good guy, but you're doing bad things, and that's the tragedy of your character, and you need to strive towards the light, like these characters who are like the Punisher and people like that. This is obviously Judge Dredd meets the Terminator with his get-up and his gimmick and that kind of thing. But if that's the case, why are they booking him as such a douchebag heel? Cowardly, violent, like the gimmick isn't working for me. Same with Gacy. I feel like they've thrown two guys together whose gimmicks aren't working. They're both great performers, but I kind of think Gacy needs to do something diabolical in this match, and almost reestablish his cult status. Not necessarily get followers, but his target should be the corruption of NXT. And I like the idea of Dijak maybe turning face and being the guy who has to take him down. And then all of a sudden you have Punisher and you have Jigsaw. You have the Marvel superhero who's a very, very troubled individual, but you have his supervillain. Because Gacy could make an excellent Joker or Jigsaw or character like that. That's where I think they should take it. Because at the moment, I feel I don't really see what's going on. But that's just me.
No, I get it. And to be honest, out of all the kind of things that Joe Gacy's done, I personally preferred the... it was almost like a political thing that he was doing right at the beginning, where he was basically saying, like, he went over the top left wing, where he was like,
yeah,
everyone needs to be really accepting and just like embrace and like let's have a hug. But he wasn't a hippie, because it was still kind of like there was definitely like a political message where it was he's gonna get heat like Kurt Angle used to, even though he's kind of like saying things that are nice and really everyone should believe in. He does it to such an extreme that you want to hate him, because you're like, nah, you're being too virtuous now. And I liked that he did that. And I think it might have been too hyper political.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's that. I think because it was always about the hypocrisy. The point of that gimmick is he's a hypocrite. The point is he's being the neoliberal virtue signaler who says all the right words but doesn't actually mean it or back it up. He says it for that to be his persona, but really
he kind of did at the beginning, but then I think they realized like, hold on, we've got a problem here because at some point he's going to have to wrestle and actually like hit people, which then means that's when the hypocrisy comes in. But I think
he was always a hypocrite because if anyone ever disagreed with him or something like that, and he'd use violence, like he was like there are people out there who are like that. They for example, they'll talk about how much they hate violence and doing this and doing that, and then if something horrible happens to one of their political opponents, they're all ha 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 ha. That like they are not nice at all.
Yeah.
Like I'm a liberal. I'm left wing, and I know because I see these people, and they give us a bad name because they are not as decent as they make out. And I always thought that was the gimmick. Like I always thought that was the gimmick from the beginning because you could always see him getting frustrated when someone wasn't agreeing with him or going his way. He was always the scumbag pretending not to be a scumbag. But I know what you mean. That it had to reach a critical mass where that. But I didn't believe for a moment that character ever truly believed what he was saying. It was all a front. It was all.
I think it was, and they had to kind of steer a little bit. But that's why it's interesting to have these different thoughts. Well, let us know what you think about Joe Gacy in the comments because I think he's quite a polarizing character. I also would throw it out. I wouldn't mind him being this person that they allude to, where they get like these weird backstage videos, in terms of like there's a spy and they've got like a Twitter account and almost like a hacker that Mustafa Ali was going to be. That kind of thing would suit him a little bit as well because he's got this like creepy smile, like a vacant smile that he does, and he's very good at it. And I kind of want him to, but I know what you mean. It's how far into it do you steer before people then go, you're a poor man's or a wish version of Bray Wyatt, and he's unfortunate in that because, hey, you can have a lot of different cults in the world and they act slightly similar but not quite the same. So it is unfortunate that he's always going to have that kind of, I guess, aura.
Yeah, and with him being a similar body type and the beard and all that, it's very like they could be brothers. If you look at them both. But yeah. Also, one final point on him. You got to remember in WWE's relatively right-wing, quite conservative mindset, that person is always the bad guy, even if they are sincere.
Yeah, true.
But they did something like before. We won't mention his name. A wrestler who we will no longer speak about did a similar gimmick on Impact, where he was, well, that's offensive. But like they almost did a better job because you knew he was to be fair, I thought he was a douchebag from the start in that gimmick, just like I did with Joe Gacy because they were booking him as a heel, which communicated it to me quite clearly. But yeah, you got to remember like their politics is different to some of ours. So they might. Do you remember when Daniel Bryan was the heel and he was that guy as well?
He's like vegan, like the planet's champion and stuff.
Yeah, like
they do it with CM Punk. Like CM Punk is teetotal, and they made it like a bad thing because they were like, actually no, like I'm this, so I'm better than you, and it's the route that they take. It's fascinating from like a psychological point of view that they do that so often, where it's like this is a really good trait. We're going to blow it up into something massive, which makes you hate this person, even though they're right. But we've spoke about before, and how many times we see it, like Thanos in Marvel. Had some decent points, just very badly executed.
I'm not so sure he did, but because again, we've tangentialized with Thanos because I think the whole point with Thanos, though, it was a messiah complex. It was never about balancing the universe or anything like that. It was all about me. I'm important. I'm special. As opposed, he was never trying to be altruistic. He was trying to be a god and play God because he was a narcissist, essentially. The comics did something similar, but also very different. But anyway, next match.
Yes, but we are going to talk about the massive skyrocketing career that seems to be for Oba Femi, who won the breakout tournament and then very quickly cashed in on Dragon Lee when Dragon Lee was he'd had a match against Alexis King, I believe it was, who'd wormed his way into that, and then Dragon Lee was. I didn't realize that the breakout contract meant it was basically a Money in the Bank thing where you could just cash it in at any point. I thought you'd have to call your shot.
Yeah, me too.
Apparently not. This is how we see this as a match. Was Oba Femi cashed in? Because what else do you need when you're a 7-foot guy with a guaranteed shot at some point than to cash in on someone who's weakened? But then not make him a heel. They did try and remedy that a little bit, I feel, on this past Tuesday where he beat up LWO and Dragon Lee. But yeah, weird. What do you think about the booking of Oba Femi so far? Because he's only had about 4 or 5 matches in NXT and is already the North American champion.
He was one of those names that I saw on Level Up, because I actually do religiously watch Level Up every week. I'm sometimes behind, because I'm sometimes behind with NXT. I'm behind with NXT right now. But it's like, he was one of these names I always saw on Level Up. Gradually saw more on NXT, and then bang, all of a sudden he's one of the champs. And it came out of nowhere to me. But at the same time, I'm kind of into it because, well, just look at the guy. As JBL once said, and I hate quoting that guy, but if you were to ever make a wrestler in a lab, it would look like Oba Femi. That's what it would look like. Look at the guy. And, I kind of want to see him hold it for longer. I like Dragon Lee's the good guy in this story, of course. But, I'm kind of more, I want to see more of Oba Femi do this. So I kind of hope he retains all the way till Stand and Deliver. And don't get me wrong, I love Dragon Lee. I think he's great, but I've never been a huge Dragon Lee guy. I'd love to see, I don't know who, but someone else in this position up against Oba Femi. Someone maybe also quite large, and we can have 2 meaty men, slapping meat. Let's do that. That's what I'm all about.
Yeah, I get that, and this is Dragon Lee's. He's been around a little bit now in NXT, and I think they maybe wanted him to have a bit more heat behind him before moving him up. But he did come on to SmackDown for a little bit, and then went back to NXT because was it who was it who couldn't fight Dom, and then that's why he got the shot in the first place.
Oh yeah, it was meant to be Ray, then it was Carlito, and both of them got injured. So it was Dragon Lee.
Someone else in between that as well. They were supposed to be, and then Dragon Lee stepped in because it had been announced, and then Ray appeared and said, you're not going to have the night off. Actually, and that wasn't Carlito. That was someone else.
Oh, I always thought it was Carlito. So I don't know then.
I don't think so, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, anyway, this is the match we have. We have Oba Femi versus Dragon Lee, and Dragon Lee's kind of still kicking around in NXT. But I don't know, something's a bit off because for me, when you look at Oba Femi, he, as you say, is just this huge guy, stacked, absolutely stacked. He's probably what WWE have been looking for a while in the sense of Omos or other sort of giant characters. But this guy can move. He's quick. He's believably powerful. He looks slick in the ring, which sometimes when you're of a certain size, it's very difficult to be that kind of nimble in the ring. This guy seems to have it all, and he's confident on the mic already. Really interesting. A lot of social media seems to be falling for him as well, saying this is a wrestler. This guy looks like a wrestler. He acts like a wrestler. He talks like a wrestler. So, yeah, there's a lot of love for him already on social media. So I don't see this as being anything other than pretty much a squash match. I think they might make it go a little bit longer than some of his other matches have gone. But I'll be more interested to see what they're going to do with Oba Femi after this in terms of who can you put forward? Because do you start telling those David versus Goliath stories? Do you have those meaty big men slapping meat matches, or are you going to make him go out of his comfort zone a little bit and test him against some pretty technical wrestlers? What would you want to see coming out of this one?
I kind of think they're gonna make him retain. I can either see him retaining through cheating, which shouldn't be done because look at the size of him, or I see them giving it to Dragon Lee because he's the more overstar, the babyface, the guy they want to be pushing. But I think it makes sense for a heel to be holding the belt going into Stand and Deliver. Like Vengeance Day just isn't as important as Stand and Deliver. So I can't help thinking they might end up making a ladder match or something like that. Like if he cheats, if he cheats to win, Ava Raine coming out and going, whoa, Sweet Child of Mine, we're not doing that. Well, here's, next pay-per-view, we're having a ladder match. They can bring in a couple of other contenders, Axiom maybe, Nathan Fraser, people like that. Maybe have another big guy in there, give Baron Corbin something to do, Stand and Deliver. Because they often have a ladder match or a multi-man match or something like that. And they've had a lot of multi-women's matches recently. So I can see them doing that for the dudes this year. But that's where I think it's going to go. But I can also see them just giving it to Dragon Lee because, like you say, he's been a bit stop-start, and they want to build him up before eventually putting him back on the main roster.
Yeah, and also, by the way, that name that we forgot, how could you possibly forget? It was Wesley who had to call out of the match because of his back injury, where they brought in a different Lee, Mr. Dragon Lee, instead. So yeah, there you go. There's Wesley, who hopefully will be back. I would imagine quite late into the year because it seemed like it was quite a bad back injury, if not maybe next year. But yes, it'd be interesting because last year at Stand and Deliver, the North American match that they had was probably one of my favorite of the whole weekend because it was was it a 4-way or was it a fatal 5-way where they had like Dragon off and they had Wesley, they had Dragon Lee was in it for his debut.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so fantastic, good lineage as well of the of champions in there. So it'd be interesting to see how they book this going forward into Stand and Deliver. Wouldn't be mad at a ladder match. Always love a ladder match, especially live, which I will be able to see at the Wells Fargo Arena. I think it's called either Wells Fargo Arena or Center. It's one of them. I looked it up earlier and it sent me to I think it was like Iowa because it's a similar name place. But yeah, there you go. You can see Oba Femi looks like an absolute machine and how easily he throws around Dragon Lee and the rest of LWO. So let's see how that one goes on. Sam, I'm going to let you talk about this one because I was taught if you haven't got anything nice to say, don't say it at all. Here we have the NXT Women's Championship match between the current champion, Lyra Valkyria, versus Roxanne Perez. I'll let you take this one from start to finish because I don't really have much to say on it.
I feel like I've not been feeling Lyra's title reign. I'm going to try and be nice. I've got nothing horrible to say about either of them. I think they're both very good. I just don't quite get what her gimmick is other than she has somewhat of a Valkyrie gimmick and is Irish and idolised Becky Lynch, who she beat. And I feel like now she's beat Becky Lynch. She was one of the most successful, women's wrestlers in WWE history. I don't see how Roxanne Perez then goes on to beat her when Lynch couldn't. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like they booked themselves into some kind of corner here, and that the only way they get out of it is turn Roxy heel and have her cheat to win. That's the only way I see them getting out of this. Because if Roxanne loses clean, then she should be main event in WrestleMania this year. Sorry, never mind flipping Stand and Deliver. So, because I don't quite think this title reign has come off. I think they've hot-shotted that title in the past year quite a lot. Came out of Stand and Deliver with Indy Hartwell holding it. Then 5 seconds later, then Mandy Rose held it for a while. Then I kind of like Tiffany Stratton holding it, not because Tiffany Stratton looked so amazing, but because I thought she was such a bitch. It was so good, such a good heel champion. I'd like turning Roxanne Perez heel doesn't really sit right with me because I feel like they've got enough people playing that role on the roster. I do think she'll lose the match because of interference from her weird little buddy, whose name I forget. It's a bizarre NXT name.
It's when I always get. Is it Tatum Paxley?
That's it. It's like Jesus. Whoever's doing these NXT names, stop. just stop whatever you're doing and do something else because they're not working. But yeah, like Tatum Paxley is not going to main event WrestleMania one day. You know what I mean? And neither's Wesley, but and he should because he's ace. But yeah, that's the only way I see this working out is if Roxanne wins through shenanigans. And because obviously Lyra's going to go on to feud with Tatum, presumably. And somebody challenges Roxanne.
I don't know if you saw it on Tuesday, not Wednesday morning. Tatum Paxley had a match with Roxanne Perez where it was almost a sort of like Roxanne Perez is going to try and take her out before she has a chance to stick up for her because Tatum got involved in the contract signing the week before and that sort of stuff and put her through a table. So I personally think the only reason why Roxanne Perez is in this position was because I think, do you reckon they originally wanted Cora Jade to be in this match? But obviously Cora Jade got hurt because it feels like a weird dynamic to have because Roxanne Perez has kind of been a face, plucky underdog. And then, Lyra is obviously supposed to have been that as well. It just feels a bit odd chemistry.
Yeah, I'm not against it. I can see Roxanne turning heel and that being the justification to take it off the woman who beat Becky Lynch clean. I can see that happening, but then do they turn her back quickly because the people doing that girl heel gimmick or very, very close to it I know Cora Jade is injured again, and that absolutely bloody sucks. She's just come back. It's like, oh, for Christ's sake. But it is what it is. But I am ready for this to come to an end, this title reign. Or maybe Lyra retains and moves on to somebody like Tiffany Stratton who can take it off her at the Stand and Deliver. Yeah,
it definitely feels like the championship needs a character to hold it now because I just think Becky's Becky Lynch. She's going to do her thing and everyone knows who she is. But then the problem they had was they set Lyra up for a bit of a fall because since then she's defended against Xia Li and Blair Davenport. And in my opinion, Blair Davenport has a better character, better aura, and could have been a better champion from my perspective. But they wanted that kind of like nice moment between Becky handing the title over to Lyra, and it just feels like it's fallen flat. Not for me personally. Is there any other name you'd throw out there? Obviously, we've still got Lola Vice kicking around with the breakout tournament championship contract. So that's really the only belt that she can go for on the women's roster. So do you think Lola Vice would be a better champion?
Like Lola Vice, I hadn't really noticed until she betrayed what's her name from Legado del Fantasma. That was the say again.
She got betrayed by her though.
Yeah. So I'm saying when what's her name, Lola Vice threw the other one out of the Battle Royale. That is when I kind of went, oh wow, that was great. Like before then, she was just the woman who accompanied the I don't know their names. The one from Legado del Fantasma to the ring. So I didn't notice Lola Vice until that point, but now I've noticed her, and then she's had that segment on the chat show. So I'm like, wow, you are an absolute colossal bitch. You're a great heel. This is going to be brilliant. Let's more of you, please. That's when I noticed her because I can't remember any of the names of any of the people who are in that tournament, like the breakout tournament they just had. Apart from now, Lola Vice, unfortunately.
Yeah. Are you talking about Elektra Lopez, by the way?
Yes, that's who I was talking about.
Yeah. So Elektra Lopez, who now seems to have moved on to SmackDown to be back with Santos, and his new, the new version of Legado del Fantasma anyway, which has got Humberto and Angel Garza on it instead. But I'm not even convinced on Lola Vice. It's so weird because I felt like 6 months ago the NXT women's roster was so strong, and something seems lacking at the moment. I don't know if it's just because not having like a dominant characteristic champion is kind of damaging that at the moment. But you've still got people around there that I like to see like get involved. Like Gigi Dolan never seems to catch a break and get ahead there. I really like is it Carmen Petrovic? I've said before, she's great. They've got some great wrestlers down there. They just don't seem to be kind of like taking advantage of having them thrown into the main event. It seems to be Roxanne Perez was really big last year and she's back again. There's a lot of sort of the same names floating around, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see where we go again. I've used that again. Too much tonight, where what happens next is an interesting one. I've just seen that Tom from Tom Talks Rubbish is in, who likes to come by and say hello. So please go follow Tom over on his channel, Tom Talks Rubbish, where he interviews the best of the best, if I do say so myself, of wrestling journalists, where, of course, you can go see some content where he's interviewed myself or Sam or the rest of the Gimme Hell Yeah crew, or even Sam's lovely wife as well. She's been interviewed all the way through to people like Sean Ross Sapp has been on there as well. So go check out Tom's channel if you want to lift the curtain a bit on wrestling journalism.
Do you know he's interviewing me again next week?
Is what, sorry?
He's interviewing me and Dom again next week, So the sequel, Sam on Tom Talks Rubbish 2, is happening next week. At least I think it's next week, Tom. You tell me. I'm ready when you are, mate.
You're a glutton for punishment, mate. You must want your ratings to go shooting through the floor. Anyway.
This beautiful face.
We're going to move on to the main event of the night, which I think will be this. I'd be very surprised if it's not this, which is Ilja Dragunov, the NXT champion, versus the man we've already spoken about at the top of the show, Trick Williams. So there's only one question I can really ask you here, Sam. Is he going to whoop that Trick?
Carmelo has to cost him, surely. It does feel a little bit obvious, but sometimes the obvious thing is that, like, Carmelo has been low-key trying to stick his foot in the door for weeks. Like, it's blatantly obvious. I can't help thinking, like, Carmelo is clearly jealous of Trick and he's gaslighting Trick into thinking, or has Carmelo been right all along and is Dragunov a secret scumbag and is politicking and is doing all this stuff in the background? Yeah, maybe, but I kind of like the idea of Carmelo costing Trick, somebody moving on to the main event picture to take on Dragunov at Stand and Deliver. Because I think that the attraction with Dragunov is, let's get a banger match with this person, let's get a banger match with this person. I think that's where they've got to go. And this is babyface versus babyface. So I do think for a bigger pay-per-view for WrestleMania weekend, they need a real bad guy to get up in Dragunov's grill. I don't know who it's going to be, but maybe Carmelo. But I think the money match for me is Carmelo versus Trick at Stand and Deliver, or who knows, maybe it's a fatal three-way with all three of them at Stand and Deliver.
Fatal three-way, not just a triple threat, a fatal three-way.
I'm thinking of a fatal four-way. Yeah, it's going to be so dangerous. It's a fatal three-way.
Yeah. I do think that there's going to be a lack of options soon enough on NXT in terms of believable challenges for the title. So maybe they do Trick versus Carmelo for the title and have Trick win here and Carmelo turn on him afterwards, or vice versa. But I do feel like that's the match, because when you look at what the card could be at Stand and Deliver, I don't think Carmelo Hayes or Trick Williams is getting on any kind of WrestleMania card. And that's not to say they're not talented enough to do it. There's just no heat or build behind that at all. And there's so many other people on the roster who'll be looking for it. But move it on to Stand and Deliver, and that's a match that people are going to want to tune in for. So I think the money has to be put on the table. That please don't take that money off the table. It'd be weird just to walk away and have that in your back pocket, because they've built this for so long that if it has to happen. So one way or another, whether they try and keep it respectful, like they have done with other tag teams, and maybe he wins the title and he goes, you know what, I want to find out who the better man is here, and you do it that way. Or maybe you do have a full heel turn, which I think is probably what they're going to do, because they do love a good cheesy heel turn at some point. I personally want to see a call back to Kevin Owens, let Trick win the match potentially. I don't think Dragunov has to have the championship, but he does look very good with the belt as well, and is worried about who he's going to face next, because they've been building a little bit of potential, I guess, with Josh Briggs. They've had a bit of a back and forward with.
Yeah, that could work. That's actually pretty good booking. You could do the whole Kevin Owens thing, and then you could have those two at the main event for the belt at Stand and Deliver, rather than them two just in a match and have somebody else up against Dragunov. Yeah, you could do it that way.
Yeah, and Josh Briggs seems to be the one that they're now sort of like pushing into that position to be a contender, because I don't know if it's the right way of saying it. Like JBL was there to give him a bit of a push by saying, like, you need to go back and tell me who Josh Briggs actually is. They've had a couple of standoffs with Ilja and Josh backstage and out even for a match. So that feels like the way they're going to go. So I think that could be another potential one for Stand and Deliver. And then that card is being built out nicely, where you'll have the tag teams will be championship will be on, the women's, the men's, the North American, and then possibly one or two of the matches. But yeah, it definitely feels like they're starting to move the pieces into position, at least for Stand and Deliver. In terms of anticipation levels, out of a 10, we've gone through the card. What are your thoughts? How excited are you?
I think primarily for the main event. I'm 10 for the main event. I want to see how that goes down. But I'm more of a lukewarm 6 for everything else.
Yeah, I think there's some interesting potential. The potential is probably the best way for this, because NXT doesn't normally put on a bad show. No. But I do feel like there's anticipation levels aren't massive for this. Maybe we're on the back of a Royal Rumble where you're like really heightened for the main roster. But I also think this is a card defined by its opening and closing matches, which will be the Dusty Cup and the NXT Championship matches, because we're all waiting to find out what happens on that. The rest is kind of inconsequential to a degree.
It's a bridge show, isn't it? The whole purpose of this show is to set up the chessboard for the bigger show in a few weeks. That is how I feel about it. It's a bit like I feel like it doesn't really. This will be the show that's remembered for whatever goes down with Trick, Mello, and Dragunov. That's what this will be, rather than this being the show that I feel like this is setting everything up. This is just an introductory show to a bigger one later. So that's why I'm not massively hyped about it. I don't think this is the thing to blow off feuds. I think this is the thing to set the tone in the road to WrestleMania.
I do feel like they might have to announce an in-between special, because if this is the last one before Stand and Deliver, we've got to go February 2nd till like April 5th or 6th. That's a long time not to have a chance to shake things up a little bit. So I just wonder if we're going to get something maybe in March, even if it's one of the TV ones is kind of named differently, because having a look, I can't see anything that's been announced outside of this.
I saw one the other day when I was looking through my calendar. Let me just have a quick look. You could be right. Probably are. Let's have a quick look. No, that's TNA. That's Elimination Chamber. Nothing in March. Yeah, it doesn't appear to be anything. No, it doesn't appear to be anything until Stand and Deliver. Yeah, I could have sworn they had a special.
I mean, there's nothing in March either for the main roster, so it feels like they're going to have to do something. NXT is normally the kind of the reverse, where they try and stick an NXT one to give it a bit of chance to shine. And also, let's face it, they normally go up against something that AEW is doing on the same weekend. And I think AEW's got, what is it in March?
They've got Revolution.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting. I think they might have to do something, but maybe March is too close, or do you go early March and then you've got one a month sort of thing? So let's keep an eye on that one. But if they're going to announce anything, it'll be this weekend, I'm sure. Plus, if we can't forget, the NXT as we know it was kind of born 10 years ago this month. So there's a big sort of anniversary spin that they should be doing. And maybe that's what they go down. Maybe they'll do a one-off takeover or something. It'd be amazing if they could get a takeover back to Full Sail University and do something a bit old school there and get some older faces on. I also wonder if they'll maybe for Stand and Deliver or something, you drip feed in a challenger from the main roster who's kicking the heels a little bit to go up against Dragunov. because I'm sure there's plenty of people who would jump at that chance. I mean, if I threw out a Sami Zayn versus Dragunov championship match, that would be a tantalising one. I'm sure there's plenty of other ones people would want to get involved in and see. But let us know in the comments. Are you looking forward to Vengeance Day? Are you going to be watching it live? Are you going to be watching it the next day? Will it be on a Sunday? You have to watch it on a Monday, I guess. But are you going to be pumped to see this one? Are you firmly ready for Stand and Deliver that's coming in April? What are you expecting to see from NXT? Let us know in the comments. Go on, Sam.
Oh, sorry, dude. I was going to say, last year on the 7th of March, they had a special called Roadblock. So chances are they'll just do it again. Because it's only a monthly special, like, you know, it's like what AEW do when they just slap another name on it and nothing really changes.
They did like New Year's Eve, didn't they, last month and stuff?
Yeah, so they'll probably do a special, but I never really count these specials as anything. But what's good about them is there's often a few title matches on there. So, but
it's not a premium live event, but it also gives them a chance to kind of hype a big show up and see how it falls. But yeah, I'd be surprised if they don't drip feed a couple of older NXT characters in purely on the basis that it's a big anniversary. And I really hope they do something big. My plan at some point in February is to do a watch along of an NXT takeover, probably the first one that they did, or the special that they did way back when, which is the first one that kind of kicked it off. And I might, on the way up to Stand and Deliver, do some sort of watch along from one of my favorite premium live events ever, which is NXT Takeover New Orleans, which is a fantastic watch from start to finish. We'll keep you updated as to where you can see that. But the best way to know when that's coming is to subscribe. So hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and also while you're there, we are live right now on Give Me a Hull Yeah. Make sure you've hit that subscribe button on there because you're getting plenty of content these days. We were having a chat about this last week. Lots of different videos from lots of different promotions. You can also find lots of great content over on WrestleSphere, and I'll let Sam plug what he's been up to this week and what's coming up over on WrestleSphere.
Yeah, quite a lot coming from my end on WrestleSphere in the next few days. Next week. I'm going to have to stagger all the content. So we've got an interview with Rosemary and Havoc of Decay of TNA. That is either going live tonight or tomorrow morning, depends when I get through finishing it. We're currently writing it up, transcribing to the hard part. We are starting a new series. It's not doesn't just have to be written by me on WrestleSphere, which is Why You Should Be Watching. And we're starting with TNA because I feel like the time is now for a good feature, talking up the benefits of TNA as they enter a new era. But we will be doing the Why You Should Be Watching for lots of different promotions, talking up what they get right, maybe looking at the past, what's not been so right for them, but essentially giving you a reason why you should be watching multiple promotions rather than just the one and sticking to it. So that's the whole idea. It's more to combat tribalism and to see, there are lots of different flavors of wrestling ice cream out there, and it's okay to mix up the code now and then. I've also got an interview with the Target Wrestling heavyweight champion on Sunday morning. He'll be facing, I forgot who he's facing. Damn it. He's facing somebody. Oh, he's facing the guy from Blackpool from NXT UK. What was his name? Joseph Connors.
Joseph Connors, yeah.
Joseph Connors. So I'll be interviewing Rossi Rascal the morning after he defends his title against Joseph Connors. So, so I'm cheering Rossi for this one. I'm looking forward to talk to him. Ross also runs the Rascals Wrestling School. I've attended a few of their shows, chatted to a few of their wrestlers as well. That they're all doing really, really good work, and I'll defend them all, and talk them up anytime. So so that's what's coming from WrestleSphere. Give me a hold tonight. We've got a stacked SmackDown. I'll be live covering it. You're welcome to join me, Andy, if you're not in bed. So we've got Roman Reigns, who will be addressing the road to WrestleMania, addressing his victory.
That was changed an hour ago. Roman Reigns will be having a face-off against Cody Rhodes.
Oh, my Lord. Even more reasons to watch it. Even more reasons. So I was about to say Cody's, live on SmackDown. Bayley also apparently makes her choice of the Royal Rumble who she fights at WrestleMania tonight. And Logan Paul, the United States champion, is in the building as well. No one tells Sassy. But Logan Paul is in the building as well. So we've got a lot of star power on that show, a lot of champions and would-be champions there. I think we had a bit of a filler episode of SmackDown last week before the Rumble. This week, I think we kick off into a new chapter of the Blue brand. So I'm actually quite excited for it tonight.
Yep. So lots of different content coming from all different angles, whether it be Gimme a Hell Yeah, WrestleSphere, or Wrestling Royalty. And while I'm here, I'll give you a shout out because it was one of the reasons why I got into kind of doing videos, podcasting, etc. I've got a t-shirt on. You can't really see it. It's Gorilla Position. Confirmed is coming back today, so it's great to have the boys from Gorilla Position. Of course, we have spoken to Skillet over on the Pro Wrestling. Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, which is a fantastic channel as well. But we like to promote everyone that we like. We don't kind of try and siphon people off. We do thoroughly believe that our content is the best. But Gorilla Vision, they're one of the top wrestling content creators over in the UK for a reason. So good to have those guys back, Ash and James, etc. Welcome back to the scene. But anyway, we've been talking long enough and we really do appreciate you being here. So I say if you've hit that subscribe button, if you've hit that like button, we appreciate you even more. For now, let me go. Oh, look, we've got a 3-second thing again. And on that note, I've been Andy. He's been Sam. This has been Wrestling Royalty and Gimme a Hell Yeah. We're out.